Chris Farfoy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. It is an honour to speak in this debate around the Social Housing Reform and Transaction Mandate Bill. I'm a State House boy. I was born, my parents I grew up in the electorate of Wigram, Haslam Crescent, and I spent most of my childhood growing up in the State House. But unlike one other MP in this House who also grew up in the State House, I'm going to stand up in this House and say that we should defend and protect state housing here in New Zealand. Because I got to live the Kiwi dream, Mr. Chair. I got to live the Kiwi dream of having the state help my parents who couldn't afford to buy their own house when I was young, having the support of Housing New Zealand to make sure that our family, my brothers and sisters, could live in a good house that was warm and dry when I was growing up, to be able to go to university and get qualifications. So at one stage of life, I ended up in this place. So I can stand up and protect the things that were important to me and my family. So I'm going to stand up in this House and say that the government is absolutely and utterly wrong for the vulnerable families and those families who want to try and live the Kiwi dream by selling off state housing in this bill. Not only do I protest the selling of the state houses, Mr. Chair, but I protest the way in which this government is selling these houses, Mr. Chair, because in Clause 4, as other colleagues have mentioned, the ministers themselves have given themselves extreme powers to be able to exclude the public servants who would usually be part of this process and part of a sale process out of the process, and is going to be left in the hands of those ministers. And I think that puts extreme power within their hands to do any deal that they like. And they've got form on this, Mr. Speaker, whether it be Sky City, whether it be Rio Tinto, whether it be other organisations that they've done dodgy deals with. This also allows those two ministers to do whatever they like, to get any price they like. And we're also within Clause 4, I understand, in Clauses 6 and 7, we don't know where this money is going to go. Is it going to go into an account that is for Housing New Zealand? Well, no, according to Clause 7 under new Part 2A, is going into the Crown Bank account. So it's not guaranteed that the money that's going to come from these sales is going to be ploughed into more social housing for those families who need it, who can't afford market rent. Now, Mr. Chair, over the Christmas break, and social media is a great thing, I got a message via Facebook from a single father who was living with one of his children in his car. Now, that's pretty extreme. And so we did what MPs do. We moved and we helped him get into a house. And if this government is saying that there's enough market housing, market rentals out there, or enough social housing out there so that it can sell off state houses because there isn't a demand, then I think that's nuts. Because there is demand, and I think it is extreme demand, and instead of selling off our state homes, Mr. Chair, we should be building more. And this morning, for those who were at the Salvation Army breakfast, not the National Party flag crisis breakfast held across the road, those National MPs would have heard that. There are a couple over there that didn't go to the flag meeting, that were at the Salvation Army meeting, got the message from the Salvation Army that we need more social housing, not to be selling them off. So, Mr. Chair, I think that this bill and this clause, Clause 4, in its current form, I protest it because I don't like the way they are selling it, and I don't like the fact that they are selling it. Mr. Chair, this is a picture of Iris Grove in Porirua about 5 years ago, just before these houses got bowled by Housing New Zealand. Now, I would love to show you a picture, Mr. Chair, of new houses and the community flourishing around Iris Grove, but unfortunately, Housing New Zealand has sat on its hands for the last 5 or 6 years and done nothing for the people of that community. There are no new homes. It is a big, bare piece of grass. So that kind of outlays the priority that this government has around social housing. Instead of moving to replace some houses that they bowled over and promised that they would replace back in mid-2011, we get in this piece of legislation, they're moving with great speed, and almost breakneck speed, as Annette King said, is pointed out in the regulatory impact statement, to give themselves power not to build more homes, Mr. Chair, but to sell more homes. Mr Chair.
Ian Lees-Galloway.
Thank you very much, Mr Chairman.